Hello, hi, Assalamualaikum dan selamat sejahtera to all my students. Okay, so today we are going to learn the new chapter. Okay, so what is the chapter? Chapter 12, coordination and response. Yeah, coordination and response in humans. Okay, so this is our title of the chapter 12. Okay, so in this chapter, there is a few subtopics that you have to cover. Alright, so there is about 7 subtopics that you have to cover in this chapter 12. Okay, so now for today, we are going to learn 12.1 coordination and response. Yeah, coordination and response. Okay, let's take a look on the learning standards that you have to cover in this subtopic. Okay, peoples are able to. Number one, make a sequence and describe components in human coordination. Okay, that are referred to the stimulus, receptor, integration center, effector, and response. Okay, and then number two, identify and describe external and internal stimuli. Yeah, external and internal stimuli. Okay, and then number three, list the types of the sensory receptors based on the stimuli involved. Is that there are few types of the sensory receptors, okay, which are chemoreceptor, mechanoreceptor, photoreceptor, thermoreceptor, baroreceptor, and nociceptor or nociceptor. Okay, so these are referred to the learning standard that you have to cover for today. Alright, so before we go to the sequence of the human coordination, okay, let's take a look. What is a body coordination? Alright, so what is a body coordination? Okay, coordination. A stimuli detection process. Yeah, a stimuli detection process. Okay, so what are the stimuli? Later we will discuss about that. Yeah, a stimuli dalam bahasa Melayunya rangsangan. Yeah, a stimuli detection process by receptors. Yeah, by receptors that ends in appropriate response by effectors to ensure the overall activities and systems of the organism function perfectly. Yeah, okay, so this is referred to the coordination, a stimuli detection process by the receptor, and then it will cause the appropriate response by the effectors to ensure the overall activities and system of the organism can function perfectly or can function efficiently. So the body coordination is conducted by the nervous system and endocrine system. Okay, so that is referred to the body coordination. Yeah, body coordination. Okay, now let's take a look on the components. Yeah, on the components of the human coordination and also the sequence in the human coordination. Okay, so organisms have the ability to detect changes. Yeah, detect changes in their environment and also respond to these changes. Okay, so this is referred to the sensitivity. Yes, sensitivity. Okay, what is the meaning of sensitivity? The ability of the human, to detect changes in environments and respond to this change. Okay, this is referred to the sensitivity. And then, okay, so the sensitivity response, the sensitivity response to the stimulus. Yeah, okay, so the ability to detect the changes in the environment that is referred to as the stimulus. Okay, so what is a stimulus? Yeah, stimulus is singular, plural is stimuli. Yeah, stimuli. So what are stimuli? the changes, the changes that stimulate the response. So any changes that stimulate the response we call as stimulus. We call as stimulus. Okay, and then the stimulus can be divided into two: external stimulus and internal stimulus. External stimulus and internal stimulus. External refer to the outside, outside stimulus. Okay, internal refer to the inside stimulus, inside the body. Right. Okay, so what are examples of the external stimulus? Okay, they are light, sound, smell of the food, taste, and also surrounding temperature, pressure, and touch. So all of these are external stimulus. Okay, internal stimulus refer to the stimulus from or inside the body that involve blood osmotic pressure, blood osmotic pressure, changes in body temperature, and also changes in blood sugar level. Alright, okay, so this is referred to the internal stimulus. Okay, now let's take a look on the few components, on the components in the human coordination. Okay, so when the stimulus are detected, so the stimulus are detected by receptors. Okay, so what are the receptors? The receptors refer to the special sensory cells, right? Special sensory cells, okay, located on the sensory organ, located on the sensory organ, okay, that can detect the stimuli. Okay, so what is the function of the receptor? It can detect the stimuli and convert into nerve impulse. Okay, so the receptor will detect the stimuli and convert it into the nerve impulse. Okay, and then the nerve impulse will be delivered, will be conveyed, will be we call as sent, we call as sent, sent to the brain. Okay, so the brain refer to the integration center, integration center that translates nerve impulse and will coordinate the response. So the brain will determine what the appropriate response that we have to carry out. Okay, so that is referred to the brain, which is referred to the integration center. Integration center. So the brain will translate the translate the nerve impulse and coordinates the response. And then the nerve impulse will be sent to the effector. Effector. Effector refer to the part of the body that responds. Refer to the part of the body that response. Okay, that is referred to the effector. So there are components in the human coordination. So what are they? Receptors, brain, and effector, including the stimulus. Okay, let's take a look on the pathway involved in detecting and responding to changes in external environment. Pathway that involve in detecting and responding to the stimulus from the external environment. So what are the stimulus here? Stimulus here refer to the sound of phone ringing. Sound. So sound is the stimulus. Stimulus here is detected by sensory receptors. Sensory receptors of the ears. The sensory organ involved here is ears. So sensory receptors of the ears will detect the sound and transform or change it into the nerve impulse. Change the stimulus into the nerve impulse. Okay, and then the nerve impulse are sent through the sensory neuron. Okay, so there are sensory neurons. So the sensory neuron will send the nerve impulse to the integration center, which is brain. To the integration center. And then what happened in the brain? Brain will translate the impulse, translate the information, and the nerve impulse are interpreted and a response is triggered. Yeah, a response is triggered. So now the brain will determine what is the appropriate response to be carried out. Okay, then the nerve impulse are sent through the motor neuron. Yeah, now the nerve impulse are sent to the effector through motor neuron. Yeah, motor neuron. And then the impulse, okay, will reach to the effectors. Okay, effectors refer to the part that carry out response, right? Okay, so the effector here is hand muscles. Yeah, hand muscles. So the effector produce a response. Okay, what is a response? Answering the telephone. Yeah, okay, answering the telephone. Okay, so this is referred to the pathway involved in detecting and responding to changes to the sound, yeah, which is external stimulus. Okay, starting from the stimulus, yeah, stimulus detected by the sensory receptor, and the sensory receptor will change into the nerve impulse, and the nerve impulse is sent to the brain, yeah, through sensory neuron. And then what the brain do, the brain will interpret the impulse and will trigger a response. And then the nerve impulse is sent to the effector by motor neuron. Okay, and then what the effector do, the effector will carry out a response, yeah, or we produce a response which is answering the telephone. Okay. Okay, next we go to the pathway involved in detecting and responding to changes in internal environment. Just now external, now internal. Yeah, internal. So the stimulus comes from the internal environment or from inside of the body. Okay, starting from the stimulus. Okay, stimulus. Okay, the blood pressure increases during running. Okay, during running. So what are the stimulus here? The blood pressure increase. Yeah, the blood pressure increase. Okay. So when the blood pressure increase, it will detected by the baroreceptor. Yeah, baroreceptor here, the receptor that detect the changes in the blood pressure. Yeah, that are located in the aortic arch and carotid artery. So, okay, after that, what the receptor do, or what the baroreceptors do? The baroreceptors will change the stimulus into the nerve impulse, and then the nerve impulse are sent to the integration center through sensory neuron, and then the integration center that involved there is cardiovascular control center in the medulla oblongata of the brain. Yeah, okay. And then, okay, what happened? So the interpretation of the data occur in the brain. Okay, then the nerve impulse are sent to the effector through sensory neuron. Okay, so and the effector will receive the impulse. Yeah, okay, what happened? The effector weaken contraction of the cardiac muscle and expansion of blood vessels diameter to reduce the blood pressure to normal. Okay, so now what happened? The effector refer to the part of the body that carry out a response here. So the effector that involved here is cardiac muscles. Yeah, cardiac muscle. Yeah, our heart muscle cells. Yeah, our heart cardiac muscles will slower the contraction of the heart. Yeah, and also will so the other receptor is blood vessel. So the blood vessel of vessel diameter will increase to reduce the blood pressure to the normal. Yeah. Okay. So now the blood pressure will become normal or reduce and become normal. Okay. So that is referred to the pathway involved in detecting and responding to changes in internal environment. Yeah. So again, okay, what is the coordination? Coordination involves a stimuli detection process by receptors, yeah, that ends in appropriate response by effectors. Yeah, by effectors to ensure the overall activities and systems of the organism function perfectly. Okay, so this called human coordination or body coordination are conducted by the nervous system and also endocrine system. Okay, so that is referred to the coordination and response. Okay, now let's take a look on the types of the receptors. Okay, types of the receptors. Okay, so what are the receptors? Receptors refer to the cells, cells that detect the stimulus, or we call as sensory receptor. Yeah, why sensory receptors? Because these receptors located on the sensory organ. Yeah, sensory receptors found at the end of nerve fibers detect information, detect the information or changes in external and internal environments. The location depends on the type of stimulus detected. Okay, so now let's take a look on the types of the sensory receptors. Okay, first, photoreceptor. Photoreceptor, can refer to the sensory receptor that detect the light. Detect the light. So the stimulus for the photoreceptor is light. Okay, please remember that the name of the sensory receptor is based on the stimulus. If the photoreceptor, so the stimulus is light because light is photo. Light is photo, so the name of the receptor is photoreceptor. Okay, next we go to the second types of the receptor, thermoreceptor. Thermoreceptor, changes in the temperature, detect the changes in the temperature. Okay, thermo refers to the heat, heat. All right, so this thermoreceptor will detect the changes in the temperature. Okay, and then chemoreceptor refer to the receptor that detect the chemical substance. Chemical chemoreceptor. Chemo is come from the word chemical. Chemical substance. The receptor that detect the chemical substance. Okay, next, baroreceptor. Okay, baro refer to the pressure. Receptor that detect the change in the pressure in the body. Changes in the blood pressure in the body. Okay, mechano. Mechano refer to the touch and pressure. So mechanoreceptor will detect the changes of the touch and pressure. Touch and the pressure. Okay, so when there is a changes in the touch and the pressure, okay, so this stimulus will be detected by mechanoreceptor. And last one is nociceptor. Nociceptor will detect the pain. Nociceptor will detect the pain. Okay, so what are the necessity of response? So why we have to give out the response? Okay, what are the necessity for survival of organisms? Okay, to survive we have to respond. For survival of organism. And then the second one, to respond to changes in the internal environment. Response to changes in the internal environment. So what is the meaning of the internal environment? Refer to the environment that inside in the body, Okay, including our tissue fluid, our blood, and so on. Right? Okay, and then adapt the changes in the environment. Adapt the changes in the environment. So that are refer to the necessity of response. Alright, okay, so that's all in the 12.1 coordination and response. Okay, so please read again and again until you do understand the concept of the 12.1 coordination and response. So you have to make a sequence and describe the stimulus, the receptor, and then the integration center, the effector, and also the response. And also you have to describe about the external stimulus as the internal stimulus, and make sure you can list the types of the receptors. Receptors. Okay, so that's all for now. Okay, thank you, girls. Stay safe.